So glad you're with us on Retire Well. Brad Johansen with Sean O'Drobanek and Kevin Bucher, Citizen Advisory Group. Gentlemen, thanks for letting me sit in with you guys today.
Yes. Great to have you. Our first show together, Brad, so looking forward to it.
This may be the best one ever. We want it to be the best one ever for you because the idea is you're going to retire when you're going to retire, and we're going to talk about something that you hate to talk about. You're probably in that mode right now of taxes. Nobody wants to talk about taxes, which is why a lot of advisors avoid talking about taxes for you. This is your second opinion, may drive you towards that today. Let's talk about the difference between tax planning and tax prep, because a lot of us are in tax prep right now, Kev.
Yes.
What's the difference between tax prep and tax planning?
Yeah, so you hit it right on the head. You know, right now everyone's gathering their documents, getting them together for
It's so fun.
Yes.
It's so fun.
Yes, and what that is, those are documents for what already happened. So we can't go back in time and change what those forms are going to say. So tax preparation is just the exercise of gathering the materials, putting it into the tax software, and calculating what your tax liability is going to be for the last year. But tax planning is something very different because it's not about looking backwards. Tax planning is going to be looking out into the future. And in order to do that, we have to have some type of a retirement income plan or something that allows us to do these projections so that we can predict what the future is going to look like from an income standpoint, and then start doing some tax planning around that with the whole goal of reducing how much you're going to be giving to the IRS over the long haul.
I like that idea. Nobody likes the idea of gathering, especially the tax stuff, to try and figure this whole out. So Sean, give me an idea what planning looks like. If I want to pay less, is planning essential in the tax game for me now moving forward for the next 30 years?
Absolutely, right? You have to have a plan looking forward. To Kevin's point, preparation is it's already been done. It's been in the rearview mirror. So we have to look and say, hey, where are you at right now with your specific accounts? And then what is that future tax obligation going to be? Because taxes are quietly eroding your retirement plan. I often refer to it as like the silent killer, right? And the silent killer is usually regards your health, right? Around like hypertension, where you've been dealing with it for a long time, but you can really still get by day to day until there's a problem. Well, it's really no different in your retirement plan. You have these accounts, these that we're going to talk about here later in the show, and not all of it's your money, right? So to put in perspective, let's just say you're in the 22% tax bracket and you got $1 million portfolio. Well, if we look at taxes in a snapshot in time right now, $220,000 of your retirement plan is not yours. It's earmarked for the government. So planning is critical to say, hey, I don't want to overpay my tax obligation. So what does that plan look like today for the future before we get to these RMD ages and these other things that we're going to talk about in today's show?
You mentioned accounts, and I want to get to this. I'm going to spend a bunch of time on this today for you to give you an option to be able to go there. mytaxbilltest.com. What's the idea? Well, how much do I have? Where do I go? We're going to break it down in a little bit, but you can scan this QR code and go to this with the amount of money that you have. And I apologize in advance. You can't unsee the number once it pops up, but you can see the strategies that you can use. The money that you put away, Sean just said it, it's not all yours. Scan the QR code. We'll talk about this in depth as we go through the show. Let's talk about the amount of accounts that we have. Let's start with taxable accounts. What are the taxable accounts, Kevin?
Yeah, so I think almost everybody out there is sitting on some money that is in a taxable account because your bank checking and your bank savings kind of meets this criteria. So, as you're collecting your tax forms, it's very likely you're going to get one from the bank that shows you might have made a few dollars of interest.
Yes.
And that's actually more relevant today because of interest rates being higher. People are actually making a little bit more money on their bank accounts. But it's in a taxable account, meaning that every year you earn your interest, you're paying tax on that interest in this year. So it's not just bank accounts. It could be a brokerage account that you also open up that has that same tax status. Similarly, I've got to pay tax on all the dividends that I earn in the year that I earned them. And then I'm also subject to paying tax on the investment returns I have when I realize them. So that's either going to be short-term or long-term capital gains, which have their own tax rates, but you are paying taxes on those taxable accounts on all the earnings plus the dividends and interest that you're earning.
Thanks very much for that, Kevin. Yeah, the idea, let's go to this with mytaxbilltest.com is where you're going. Sean, talk to me about tax deferred, because that's what you're putting into this calculator. Let's kick the can down the road.
You got it.
Let's wait. This is what we've been told to do and save in tax deferred accounts, right?
Yep. And with the planning in the tax deferred account, you don't know what to do, right? And not too many people talk about it. So if you don't know what to do, you take the path of least resistance and you don't do anything, right? So we're trying to really utilize this tool to say, hey, what does my future tax obligation look like, right? So most people, and a bulk of the retirees that we work with, have most of their assets in this account. So I just want to first name them, right? Because there's a lot of different names for this. It could be referred to as a tax deferred. It could be referred to as qualified. It could be called pre-tax account.
Yeah.
Some even call them my retirement accounts, right? So ultimately, and that looks like it's either a 401k, a 403b, 457, IRA, rollover IRA, simple IRA. There's a lot of different types of accounts that qualify for this qualified plan, right? So I know that's a little confusing, what I just said right there, but don't worry, we know what these accounts are, and we can help you figure this out, because it's imperative that if you look at that statement, right, that 401k statement or your IRA statement, and you look at that number and you got to know that that's not all of my money. That's my money minus taxes, because when I opened that account, I shook hands with the United States government, right? And we said, you know what? I'm going to give you a tax deduction now. We're going to let this thing grow tax deferred for a long time, to a point in the future to where it's time to pay the piper.
It's what we were told to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think, to add insult to injury, it's not just about we owe taxes on the money that's sitting in that account today. We also have to pay tax on all the growth from this day forward we have on that account if we leave it trapped inside those tax deferred accounts.
Okay, let's get to the spot where we are. And mytaxbilltest.com, I cannot stress it enough how they've simplified this idea of what Sean talked about. They can be confusing. They can be called a lot of different things, but you're qualified to do what? To pay more taxes. Scan the QR code to be able to do this, what Uncle Sam wants. Now, I'm going to break it down in the next segment, but before we get to that, let's try and figure out to where we want to be, Kevin, which is the tax-free account, right?
Yeah, so there are accounts that are tax-free by nature. And I think when you sit down with someone and you go over that, well, we have some accounts that are taxable, we have some accounts where the taxes are deferred, and then we have other accounts where they're tax-free. I think it's pretty obvious to everyone they would prefer to have that money in the tax-free position. And that's going to be some type of a Roth IRA or maybe a Roth 401k. But there's rules on how you can get the money into those accounts. So it's not just a snap of the fingers that I choose to have tax-free. It's got to be part of a plan. And how do you, number one, contribute into those accounts? And number two, does it make sense to maybe convert and move money from the tax-deferred status over into the tax-free status? And when and how does that make sense?
Look, raise your hand if you have a desire to be in the tax-free. Yes. The idea is, look, if we go to mytaxbilltest.com, you scan the QR code. I apologize again. It opens your eyes as to what you owe. So here's what we're offering. Retire Well and Citizen Advisory Group would like to give you a tax analysis report. So if you want to call the number on your screen, we'll put together a complimentary tax analysis report. Confusing? Heck yeah, it is, which is why you want somebody that's been doing it for decades, hundreds and thousands of times, to try and help you strategize the best way you can. Your complimentary tax analysis report, you scan the QR code, call the number on your screen. Look, you've been watching for a long time and saying, at some point I'm going to call. When you want to do it now, 866-603-1675. How do we fix this tax problem? We're back after this.
My name is Kevin Bucher. I am co-founder of Citizen Advisory Group. So I became a financial advisor through kind of just working people with through their health insurance initially. So I was helping people specifically with Medicare. That evolved into more comprehensive planning around different areas of financial planning to include their investments, their retirement income strategy, taxes, the insurance where I started, as well as some estate planning. I think what inspired me and really a lot of the individuals here at Citizen Advisory Group is just a strong passion and desire for helping people. So we recognized that the financial services world was not doing a great job of meeting the everyday daily needs of a population, where they're not really providing specific individual solutions that are tailored to the individual. They're more meant to be services that work across a bigger subset of individuals. So what we do different is to try to just putting together solutions to the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis to improve their outcomes in regards to their finances is very rewarding and still keeps me going to this day.
So glad you're with us on Retire Well. Brad Johansen along with Sean and Kevin. Citizen Advisory Group, we're talking taxes, your favorite topic. The idea is, and I'm going to put it back up for you, mytaxbilltest.com. Scan the QR code. And I apologize, it's frightening. But there are strategies, which is why we're here to simplify this. And the fact of the matter is, taxes are on sale right now, Sean. We're actually, and it doesn't feel good to anybody, we're actually in a pretty decent spot to be able to use some of the strategy.
Yeah. And if you look at like the historical rates of taxes, going back to like the World War II era, the highest tax bracket was up to like 94%.
Which is high.
I would say. And no one wants to overpay in taxes.
Exactly.
But if you fast forward to today, the current landscape, the highest tax bracket's at 37%.
Yeah.
So when we look at the history of taxation, to your point, we're in the third lowest seasons of where the taxes are on sale. And I think there's another kind of a assumption that these taxes, they're not permanent, right? Now I know we had some recent legislation last year that said, hey, this is a permanent solution. This is always they're permanent for the next 4 years. 3 years.
Until somebody changes their mind
until
again.
the next whoever comes in and decides to say, well, let's see if we can repeal this, right? To your point, they are on sale. And this recent bill actually was favorable for retirees. And we took advantage of that with our clients this last year. Because while we had this change of 4 years, well, we just missed one because now we're in to 2026 here. So now we got 3 more years where we know that we're going to have some higher deductions, another below the line deduction to where we can actually take advantage of what's happening with the low interest rate, with the low taxation rates. Because, I think going back to the qualified plan, if we don't do it and if we just let it grow and we're investing it and we want to see that growth where most people do, all we're doing is we're just kicking that can down the road to where we're going to pay more in taxes at that unknown number in the future. And we got $38 trillion of debt. And,
they got to go somewhere for it.
There's one way to combat that, right? We got to increase revenue. So how does the United States government increase revenue? They raise taxes.
Yeah. So permanently for now. Is where we are. I'm going to throw some of this graphic up for you. You say, well, what do I have to go through? It's a couple of minutes. Go scan the code. I want to show you where we are. You simply fill in what you have put in your qualified, your deferred money that you have yet to pay taxes on. Uncle Sam wants you to do this. Really, really simple to put in the info. And then it's going to spit out numbers for you. And I say spit out because it's nasty. The idea is how much the government wants you to pay and how much a strategy now would pay. And it can go through the list of understanding paying now, paying at RMDs, paying as you pass it down to the next generation. The idea is I would like to figure out what I owe. So Kevin, what's the danger in waiting on not planning for this?
Well, when you are proactive in your planning, there's opportunities that exist to take advantage of. And, you guys already kind of hit on that the tax code as it exists today is permanent, but it's only permanent until Congress acts and they change it again, right? So there's been some things. So when we look out into the future and we expect to be some tax increases potentially, that sometimes those happen in a stealthy way. So I'd like to just give an example of that.
Please do.
So, some of the recent legislative change increased the age that were required to draw funds from those qualified accounts like IRAs and 401ks. So they raised the age that we have to take the money out. At the same time, they changed the rules for our beneficiaries to where they used to be able to stretch out the distributions when they inherited it over the course of the rest of their whole lifetime, so many, many, many years. Now it has to be distributed out over a 10-year period at a maximum. So on one hand, they increased the age that you are required to take it, and then on the other side, they shortened the time frame that your beneficiaries have to deal with it. So you have a much tighter vacuum of time to deal with the taxes on these tax deferred accounts. So by nature, when that happens, we now have to take out more in each year, which will increase our income. And when incomes increase, our tax liability could also be increasing right alongside of it. So the government has a plan.
Oh, yeah, they do.
For what you do with those accounts. And that is what the calculator is highlighting, that if you just stick with the government plan, this is the exposure you have to your taxes.
Well, just as you mentioned, and they don't change it very much. I mean, they went from 70 and a half on your RMD age. Oh, yeah, and then we're going to go to 72. Now we're at 73. We're going to change it to 75. Who knows when they're going to change it again? And as we do that, it doesn't do us a favor. You said, hey, the government did us a favor by extending this. That's a rare thing. But as we grow that money to the later dates, what can drawing this money out at RMD age start to trigger for people?
You got it. It's going to give you some challenges at that time, right? Because you're going to have a larger number, and now you're forced to take that distribution. And I think one thing we're missing here is that, married filing jointly has favorable tax rates. And let's say you make it to the RMD age, where currently 73 will be 75. The surviving spouse typically lasts about 5 years on average longer. So now that married filing jointly is you're now a single filer.
Yeah.
And those tax rates have a significant reduction. So you're going to have less income, and you're going to be forced to take this RMD from your accounts, from your spouse's accounts. They still have to distribute the RMD, and that denominator goes down every year, right? So what you have to take, the numerator keeps going up. And now as a single filer, you're going to cross into likely the next tax bracket. And you might now pay more for your health insurance. So there's something called the income-related Medicare adjustment. It's a fancy long name just to say, hey, you're going to pay more for your health insurance that you're already paying out of your Social Security tax. So
Aunt Irma added on to Uncle Sam.
And we just want to get ahead of that. We want to know, what does the future look like, so we can make decisions today to try to mitigate those in the future.
Yeah, because it's not so straightforward, right? That we have our tax rate, but your tax liability could also increase your health insurance premiums. It could also increase the taxable portion of your Social Security. So there's this whole domino effect that when these distributions kick in and we're forced to take them, yes, we're going to pay tax on them, but it also might increase your health insurance costs. It might also reduce the taxable portion of your Social Security. So this whole domino effect happens. And that's where there is a gift in the fact that they increased the RMD age to 73, but only if you accept it and start doing some planning.
Amen to that, which is why you want to go to mytaxbilltest.com. Scan the QR code, find out where you are. It is understanding where you are so that you can do something about it. What do you want to do after that? How about a free, complimentary tax analysis report? You can call the number for that. Put it together at Citizen Advisory Group, complimentary for you. And understand, your situation isn't going to be like the guy down the hall who said, just do it this way, or somebody in the neighborhood who said, I've done it this way. Yours is going to be different than anyone else's. So you're going to want to call 866-603 or 630. Sometimes I invert the numbers. 866-630-1675 to get your complimentary tax analysis report. Waiting could cost you everything. Do it now. We're back after this.
Thank you for using Citizen Advisory Group's retirement tax projection calculator at mytaxbilltest.com. Now that you've seen your potential future tax liability, you might be wondering how those numbers were calculated and what they mean for your retirement plan. It's important to understand that this calculator is a high-level tool designed to highlight the significant role income taxes could play in your retirement without proactive planning. The calculations are limited to the inputs provided and assume both a fixed rate of return on your investments and a fixed tax rate on every dollar distributed from your pre-taxed accounts. Real-world scenarios often involve variable rates and additional complexities that require personalized strategies. As you've seen from your personalized results, the tax implications for your retirement savings can be substantial. Now that you have this initial projection, the next step is to explore potential strategies to reduce your tax burden. Our advisors at Citizen Advisory Group can analyze your complete financial picture and develop customized, tax-efficient withdrawal strategies that the calculator alone can't provide. Schedule your personal tax review meeting today by calling the number below.
So glad you're with us on Retire Well. Brad Johansen along with Sean and Kevin, Citizen Advisory Group. And we have left this up for most of the show because it is supremely important for you to do something now. Put together a tax calculator, mytaxbilltest.com, scan the QR code, go to the website, find out what you've put away that is not all yours, what Uncle Sam wants, strategies that we can use to try and figure out how to keep more money in your pocket. Let's go tools. Kevin, start me off with some tools if we're going to strategize to keep more money in the pocket.
Yeah, so I think one key word to your taxes is diversification.
Okay.
So I think a lot of times when we associate that word, we're thinking about our investments where we want to have a mix of stocks and bonds and other alternatives. And that's what we think of when we think of diversification. But we also want to have diversification when it comes to our tax types. So it's not that the taxable account is bad, and it's not that the tax deferred account is bad, or that tax-free is, okay, it's hard to say tax-free is bad.
Yes, it is.
But when we put it together, we want to have proper diversification. But too many times what we see is 100% of the savings dollars for retirement are tucked away in those tax-deferred accounts. So when it comes time that you have a need, you've only got one place to get it from, and there's no control then. But if we have proper diversification, there's actually a lot more control over your tax bill than you think, but you have to have the right diversification. So whether you're getting ready for retirement or you're already there, having some diversification in those different types of accounts is really important, and we can help people get to that point.
That strategizing usually goes to Roth, tax-free. Talk to me about Roth, because we'll hear Roth. I'm not sure a lot of people actually understand the whole concept.
Yeah, I think what I hear most often is, people come in and we're talking about the tax diversification and they're like, man, if I'd have known what a Roth was, I would have started that, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And again, you got to start with the end in mind, because people are asking now, like, should I put money into my Roth now? And, tax-free money, Kevin, sounds great. But what if I'm in a higher tax bracket? What if I'm in a 24 or 32% tax bracket and I'm paying that tax? It might work out if my retirement tax is going to be less, but we don't really know that because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But we can make systematic and educated planning towards how much should we move, because as I stated earlier, a lot of the assets are in the qualified space, the 401k, the IRA. And there are ways that we can do a Roth conversion, not to be misunderstood with a Roth contribution. Those are two different mechanisms.
Okay, explain
right?
very quickly.
So contributions, you can put money in up to a certain limit if you have earned wages while you're still working. Conversions, you can move money from your IRA account to your Roth account, and there's no limit of how much. And some people are probably watching this show and they're saying, hey, that bald guy said that we can go and move money. Let's do it. Well, you might do that, and it might cost you, because we met with a gentleman about 2 years ago that was doing his research. He's an engineer, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to Roth convert this entire account. I think it was like $350,000. He knew he was going to pay the tax, but he did not know what was going to happen with all of those other, the Social Security, the IRMA, right? So then, in his instance, that's what took him to take action to come and see us, because anybody can Roth convert, right? But you need to know where to stop.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're going to avoid IRMA. But if we're going to go into IRMA, or if we're going to go into the next tax bracket, we're going to know, because we got to know why we're going to go into that and what the implications are ahead of time before we just do it.
It's what you guys have talked about. It's a domino effect because everything works. Are there other tools beyond Roth, Kevin, that we ought to be paying attention to?
Absolutely, and I think this has gotten a lot of traction lately with the health savings accounts. But I would argue that historically, people have used their health savings accounts totally wrong. So when you put money into a health savings account, you do get a nice little upfront incentive because you get a tax deduction for the money that you put into the health savings account. Similar to the IRA or 401k, the account grows tax deferred. You don't have to pay taxes on the growth of that. But when you withdraw it later and you withdraw it for qualified healthcare expenses, you are able to withdraw it tax-free. So the health savings account has triple tax benefits because it's a tax deductible contribution, it's tax deferred growth, and then it's tax-free withdrawals when used for those qualified medical expenses. But too often what we've seen is people put money in that account and then they immediately pull it right back out to pay that current year's medical expenses. So they're not getting any value off of the tax deferred growth part of it. So a strategy that a lot of people are starting to use, myself included, I make my maximum contribution into that account. I don't use it to pay this year's medical expenses. I'm stockpiling some funds for my retirement years, and I'm getting all that growth that I'll be able to access later on a tax-free basis. So it's not just Roth options, there's also health savings account options. Now, once you're Medicare eligible, you can no longer put money into the health savings account. So it is something you want to be proactive about and get started early.
All part of the domino effect that one thing leads to another, which is why you want to go to mytaxbilltest.com just to find an initial idea about where you stand. And you say, goodness gracious, I want to be on this side of the ledger instead of this side of the ledger. That's when you're probably going to need a tax analysis report. Well, you've come to the right place because Citizen Advisory Group is offering you a complimentary tax analysis. What do I have to do for that? You can scan this QR code. You can call the phone number, 866-630-1675 for your complimentary tax analysis. It may be the greatest hurdle that you have in retirement. Wouldn't you like to clear it with experts who've been doing it for decades to try and figure out how to get over the hurdle and make sure that you have more money left in your pocket? It's peace of mind, and it's starting now. So make the call right now. Let's see you in the office. Appreciate you spending time here. Now we'll see you in the office, and we'll see you right back here next time. Retire well. Thanks for joining us.